Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thanks for tuning in. This is our Tuesday night live on Crime Talk. Thank you for being here. For those of you who do not know me or are familiar with Crime Talk, my name is Scott Reisch. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado and have done so for 25 years. We started this channel because basically we were sick and tired of the evening news, giving a limited recap and usually getting the facts and the procedure and the law incorrectly. And so we started this channel. I guess it was about 2 years ago. And here we are trying to put out a video just about every day for you all, bringing you the latest headlines and explaining what it really means in the big picture of criminal defense procedure. What does the prosecutor has to prove? What is the defense ethically permitted to do as well? And like I said, we'd like to talk about the cases that are not only interesting, but grab everyone's attention. And here we are, almost at 125,000 subscribers. Man, I'd like to get there. Well, maybe like 1.2 million subscribers would be even better, but we'll take it one subscriber at a time. We appreciate you being here. We know that you have lots of other things that you could watch on YouTube or TV, and so the fact that you are coming here to watch us is greatly appreciated, and it is not something that goes unnoticed. So, lots to talk about. Make sure you send us a chat. We'll try to answer questions for you, and not that you have to do it, but if you do the what are they? No, not the. It's the super chat. The super chat. If you do the super chat, it makes it much easier to try and answer those questions, because once we get going, they kind of go by really, really fast. But we'll try to answer everybody's question. And then after this, we'll go to our Patreon page in our talk. And, in that one, we actually do a little bit of a call-in show. And we'll give that number, once you're signed up for the Patreon, where you can actually call in and we'll take questions back and forth with you. And we'll discuss any case you want to discuss. So we shall do that as well. And let's get started. So obviously there was a lot of news breaking today. We have the case down in Florida where the three men go out for a fishing trip, going to spend the night, do a little catfish, and suddenly basically one of the gentlemen drives up and seeing his other two friends being beaten and shot. And then ultimately the same demise comes to him, but after he had the opportunity to call his father. So if anyone's out there going fishing in Florida, be careful. You don't know if these people upset somebody. What the hell happened? Was it something that just, they were targeted? Was it completely random? Wrong place, wrong time? We don't know, because the sheriff down there, I'm sure he's doing his best, but has no suspects whatsoever. We also talked about the former Speaker of the of the House in the great state of New York, getting his 6.5-year sentence for public corruption after his third trial. He finally is going off to jail. And then for all those white-collar folks, then we had the Ohio Speaker of the House arrested today with a $60 million bribery scheme. You just can't make this stuff up. And this guy's, he's apparently quite a piece of work. Ohio's House Speaker Larry Householder was arrested Tuesday morning in his rural farm, according to the United States Attorney in the Southern District of Ohio. Householder was taken into custody in connection with a $60 million bribery scheme allegedly involving state officials and associates. Those associates were a former Ohio Republican Party chairman, Matt Borges, Householder advisor Jeffrey Longstreth, and lobbyists Neil Clark and Juan Cepedis. And apparently, it's only $60 million. I mean, if you look at the big picture of things, I'm sure the Ohio budget's a lot less. It's not like they were trying to, steal all of that. And I mean, after all, it was only the citizens of the great state of Ohio that were going to have to pay for it. So although Mr. Householder and his alleged co-conspirators have been indicted by the United States attorney, we will give them and afford them the presumption of innocence. Unlike Mr. Silver today, who's pled guilty, still trying to unwind his conviction. But the judge said, no, you're a criminal. It's time for you to go to prison. Even though I think he was like 75 years old, in poor health, the judge says, no, you got to go to prison. And then, if y'all aren't counting down, today is day 19, where Miss Maxwell has not been suicided. So she's got that going for her. Apparently, she hasn't received word of that just yet. And also, if you're not taking precautions, maybe getting a little crazy tonight, because tomorrow is the day that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell think that the world is coming to an end. So conceivably, possibly, this could be one of the last crime talks ever to take place if they're correct. I guess we'll have to see who's correct tomorrow. We'll see. Somehow, I'm betting on me and not them. But let's face it, they've been wrong about everything that they've done thus far, so why would this be really any different at all? Let's see. For some reason, my questions aren't scrolling. Let me see if I can. We want to thank Carla. Apparently, Carla gave us a super chat. Thank you very much. I just am nothing's scrolling here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I hate this. See, I've got this little monitor here, and it's not great. It just dies. So maybe we'll use this one. But in other Lori Vallow news, because lots of people like to talk about the Lori Vallow matter, and frankly, it is interesting, because where can so many people wind up dead around such a small collection of people? The last time we had this many dead people around one particular person, I think it was maybe Hillary Clinton or something like that. I know, it's just a joke. It's not political, seriously, but a lot of those people just do it. Anyway, the district attorney in the Vallow case filed a motion tonight or yesterday with the court, actually the 17th, but they just posted it. They just posted it regarding asking the court to reconsider their order allowing cameras and video coverage in the preliminary hearing. And the district attorney, Mr. Robert Wood, is asking the court to disallow all video coverage of the preliminary hearing in the case for the purpose of protecting the defendant's right to a fair trial. The state acknowledges the right of the defendant to public hearings and the protection of a public hearing affords to a defendant. Obviously, they also know that the people have a right to know, but they're asking this motion not for a closed or sealed hearing, but simply that the preliminary hearing be treated as the same as nearly every other preliminary hearing, and that there should be no video cameras in the courtroom. And the district attorney is taking the high ground here, saying that he bears the responsibility of administering justice, and he takes that job seriously, and he's not just an advocate. And with that responsibility carries the obligation to see that the defendant is accorded procedural justice. And he has a right, just like the judge, to protect the right of the defendant to a fair trial. And he's concerned that if the matter is publicized, that the defendant, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, will not be given a fair trial, because obviously everybody wants an unbiased jury, and he's thinking that it's simply not going to happen. So that's kind of the latest issue in the Vallow-Daybell matters. And obviously the district attorney has stated that This case has garnered widespread media attention across the country, and the whole state of Idaho has been inundated with media coverage regarding the children. Picking a fair and unbiased jury will be already difficult process no matter where the trial is held. Broadcasting, live streaming, the presentation of evidence during the preliminary hearing will make the jury selection process even more difficult. So this is a very interesting issue. Yes, the court and the district attorney do have a duty to make sure that a defendant's rights are protected. A lot of people don't realize that, but sometimes judges even get a little carried away in the courtroom, and every now and then a district attorney will step up and say, "Judge, I'm trying to protect the record. I don't think that you should do that or that you want to do that." So, publicizing trials. Personally, I am of the opinion that I think they should put cameras in every courtroom around. I think it would be great for people to see the criminal justice system in process, not just when there is a high-profile case going on. It matters when you get to see the homeless schizophrenic man being sentenced who is fine when he has his medications that cost, $30 a month, but we're going to send him to prison and it's going to cost $32,000 a year. You would think that there would be other ways to spend that money, perhaps something a little more efficient. You just really never know. So people should see that. Or you should see that, the guy that has a ton of money gets a deal that neither you nor me would ever get in their lifetime because they are politically connected or they have financial means, and somehow the district attorney handling the case, maybe wants a job someday, and it'd be really nice if he could work for one of the big law firm that he's going up against. Those kinds of things happen, and the people should be able to see it. So if anyone were to ask me, I would be of the opinion that the preliminary hearing should be put out on broadcast. I think that the people that watch the preliminary hearing will understand that it is a very different standard of proof than what is required at trial. People that watch the hearing will understand that really all that goes on at a preliminary hearing is the district attorney calls the detective to the stand who submitted the affidavit for the arrest warrant, and they will regurgitate what is in the affidavit. There's not going to be usually any smoking gun that comes out. The defense tactics at a preliminary hearing are much, much different than they are at trial. At trial, you're going to win. At a preliminary hearing, the chances of the case being dismissed are about 0.001%. So that's simply just not going to, it's not going to happen. And so I think the people should see it. Now, do you have to worry about a jury not being able to be selected at trial if that takes place with the Vallow or the Daybell matter? I guess that's a possibility, but guess what? Then you declare a mistrial if you cannot seat a jury. But most judges will wait until the voir dire process and see if they can have enough juries. You would be surprised, even in high-profile cases. Most of our people are very informed, very intelligent people, follow what's going on in the news, follow what's going on in criminal cases. But there are a lot of people out there, and it's scary, even in a high-profile case, will have never heard a single thing about the case that's before them. It is a little weird, and you just wonder, what rock has this person been under? But they've been in, dealing with life. They've been dealing with, family. They're busy, and so they don't get to necessarily watch everything that goes on in the world. And it may actually shed some light as to whether there may actually be enough evidence for Lori and Chad Vallow to be charged with murder. Now, I'm of the mindset that if the district attorney had obviously enough information or evidence to prove murder charges at this point, that they would have them. I think that the district attorney probably believes, or only believes that he can prove, because remember, it's a lot different from what you believe than to what you can prove. And a district attorney has an ethical obligation only to bring charges that they believe that they can ethically prove beyond a reasonable doubt when they file those charges. Not like we're going to charge it and hope we can get there by the time we get there. At the time of filing charges, they're saying they can do that. I don't think they have the evidence thus far. I think that probably the district attorney believes, like I probably believe, that although there was probably a conspiracy, unless Chad or Lori rolls over at this particular point on one another, that it would be hard to prove anything. And the culprit that probably did the actual killing, although conspiracy, you can be charged just for the actions of another, Alex Cox is in fact deceased. So let's see here. Daring D. Scott, you missed your super chat. Three from Rent, and who's the main? Let's see. Let me go back here. Sorry. They go by fast, ladies and gentlemen. It's Daring D. Apparently one of the three, Damien, was having an affair with a married woman. Psychic stated it was husband of the woman he was having an affair with. Well, sometimes the psychics get it right, and sometimes they don't. A jealous husband can be a dangerous thing sometimes, and you never know. I guess they're going to have to see where that angry husband might have been at the time in question. It's, nothing. And this is the one thing you have to remember when you look at these cases. No matter how bizarre you think it may be, and it couldn't happen because that's just crazy, it can happen. The things that that people come up with, the factual scenarios, the situations that they put themselves in, if you were to read it, you would say that's just crazy. But it happens. It happens all the time. Scott, let's see, Ingrid. Can you recommend a good coffee for my Crime Talk mug, which is on the way to her? Well, Ingrid, you probably got the new Crime Talk mug like I have here in my hands. And I'll tell you, I'm not a big aficionado when it comes to coffee. In fact, I don't drink the stuff. I would suggest filling it full with sugar-free Red Bull every morning to get your day going. That's what I would do, because I think that coffee stuff will kill you, but a little Red Bull goes a long way, keeps you pepped up throughout the day, and that's a great one. If not, anyone here have any suggestions here in the Crime Talk studios for some good coffee? Starbucks, I'm hearing. Starbucks. But Ingrid, her money thing is coming in like pounds, English pounds, so I'm not sure. I would say something Colombian, perhaps. Something Colombian. They got some good coffee there.
Do you think they don't have enough evidence against Larry or Chad to charge murder?
Yep.
I think the charges are
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Mary, for the super chat. Thank you, Daring D, for your super chat. Greatly appreciated. Ingrid, thank you. Like I said, the Valos, you just can't, like I said, I guess we'll have to wait and see as of tomorrow if any of us are actually here, since according to them, it is in fact the end of the world. It won't really matter. I guess it just simply won't really matter at all. But somehow I think we're all still going to be here.
We have lots of Australian viewers that are still here, and it's the 22nd.
Oh, that's right. Our Australian viewers. with the time change, it's already the 22nd. I wonder if Lori and Chad meant Mountain time zone, or maybe Pacific. Yeah. See, these are the kinds of things when you start making predictions that you just can't necessarily always back up, right? It's, I mean, these are the kinds of things you just never know. But yeah, thank you for our Australian viewers down there who have let us know it's the 22nd and they're still there. So that's good to know. I think this big ball floating around the universe is going to be just fine. And it's going to take a lot more than Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell to make it disappear.
We sent them out to Australia last week. Yeah, we sent them out to Australia.
Yeah?
Yeah, someone from Australia as well.
That's right. That's great. So anyway, so that's the Lori Vallow matter. And of course, the judge also gave out her written order, which, it's funny in these high profile cases, the matter's still in the county court, and the case where the judge reduced the bail from $1 million down to $150,000, she writes up these big orders like she's in district court or something. I doubt this court does this. In county court, they don't type up anything. Everything's usually ruled on from the bench. They scribble it on or they type it in contemporaneously into the court computer there, but they don't type up big orders for this. So, and I guess this is one of the issues that you actually get when you do, in fact, have cameras in the courtroom. People start acting differently than they normally necessarily would have. Maybe it's going to be their claim to fame. They think this is a big case, and they don't see who they really are. That's why I think you need to have it in there, the cameras all the time. So I don't know about you all, but my little chats have stopped rolling by. What?
Did you answer Chandra Roberts? What do other lawyers think of you doing YouTube?
Oh, question, Chandra. What do other lawyers think of me doing YouTube? The ones that I've talked about it have had no problems with it. They actually think it's great, and they want to come on as guests. I don't think it's a problem at all. And frankly, why would we not want to help educate the public on the legal system, the law, the Constitution, which is the ultimate rule book when it comes to the law here in the United States? I've had nothing but positive feedback. I've never had anything. And I assure you, there is no one that worries more about embarrassing myself or those around me than me. But we try to do our best and, make sure that we provide something of value, to provide value to you, so that maybe when you watch our 20 or 30-minute video, you go away saying, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I'm glad I tuned in today. Maybe I'll tune in tomorrow to see what else I can learn. And, who knows? Each case that we talk about here is different. The lady today, our dumb criminal contestant of the week, or our bank robber. And we're not asking or advocating for people to go and commit crime. I guarantee you, people will do it without any encouragement whatsoever. But in today's world, I mean, Walmart, who would steal from Walmart? Like, seriously, who would steal from Walmart? They have every inch of that store covered in video surveillance. It is the equivalent of going to a casino at your local Walmart. It's completely covered. And they do that because they're protecting their money. They have, arresting shoplifters down to a science. And our dumb criminal contestant of the day walks out with a 65-inch TV in the cart without paying. You think someone's going to follow her to her car? Yes, they did. And that may have prevented them driving away with a 65-inch TV, or maybe because They didn't realize that the 65-inch TV wasn't going to fit in the car that they were driving. So, I mean, there's always something that can, be taught about the cases out there. And that's really our goal. And like I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, we started this channel because of the Chris Watts case. The Chris Watts case, everyone was getting it wrong. The local news media, they didn't know the difference between an arraignment, preliminary hearing, a motions hearing, pretrial conference, or an advisement. And yet these people were up there talking like they knew, what that there's supposed to be some sort of trusted source on it. They couldn't even get the procedural aspects of the case correctly to explain it to people. And I just think that's a disservice. That would be like me getting up here and trying to explain, plumbing, electricity. It just doesn't make much sense. Now, does that mean I know everything? No. Does that mean I know everything about the law? Oh, heck no. What I love about being a lawyer is that I literally learn something new every day. Literally every day, we learn about, whether there was today there was a federal statute that I was not familiar with, but I had a client that's actually in Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, wherever they run their business out of. And it was issues regarding solicitation via text messages. There's a federal act for that. I had no idea until we had to look it up. Now, thank goodness my client wasn't doing anything wrong, but I'd never heard of that act. I mean, there's no way that everybody could know a particular area of law. The law is so huge, so vast, no one can be an expert on every little part of it. So we try to focus on what we know about, particularly, and that's criminal law, criminal defense. And like I said, the biggest rule book when it comes to that is the Constitution. I don't know if somebody can help me, but I have no way to see any chats going by here. It froze. I'm not sure why. Sorry for everybody, but just trying to do this. All right, let's take a look at this. Jen B, I love to watch the people at Walmart. That is kind of funny, I have to admit. I love it. Claire Bear, it is Wednesday here in Australia, so I think we're safe from the doomsday. Well, like I said, that's great, unless, of course, they meant Mountain Daylight Time. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Victoria, you figured out how to do the super chat. I'm a superstar. Have a tea on me. Thank you very much, Victoria. Very cool. Let's see. They have the receipt, the checkers. I blow right by. They should have those people in aisles to deter theft. Well, I don't know about you, but it's getting really a little far off. But like, remember when you actually had customer service? And I'm not talking like, COVID type stuff where nobody, talks to you or comes within 6 feet of you. But do you remember when you actually used to go into, like, say, a Home Depot and you actually had people that knew what they were talking about in the sections? They just don't have those anymore. They used to actually have professionals in there. And now they have like some 19-year-old kid you're trying to ask, where whatever is, and they have no idea. So I know that's completely off topic, but it's just kind of one of those things, and it just kind of bugs me, and that it's just so true. Let's see. Emma, thank you. A $20 super chat. Wow. Thank you. Love your stream. Thank you very much for watching, Emma. Especially, let's see, if at 2 a.m. after all the kids are fed and asleep, especially without school. Thanks for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Much love for you and your family from West Virginia. Well, thank you very much, Emma. Appreciate it. I mean, obviously, if you've got kids at home, remember when everyone was always ready for summer to end because the kids were going back to school, and now they're not going back to school in most cases? Let's face it. I mean, most people, you love your kids, right? But for the God's sakes, can we just send them back to school? And so I get it, Emma. That's funny.
Happy birthday to the tired mom.
Yeah. Happy birthday to the tired mom. That's right. Okay. Oh, look, and to our previous super chatter who was asking about, was it Ella? I think was her name, about the coffee. People are bringing in coffee, so hopefully we can help out. Let me get her name. Was it Ely? Ingrid? I can't remember. Somebody, they were having questions about what kind of coffee they should get to pour into their Crime Talk mug. So we'll see what we can do with that. Let's see here. Betty Smith thinks that because Alex did the killing, they probably are going to go with that lie, even though they didn't know he was going to kill them and save their asses. Yeah, and think about it. Originally, Lori Vallow was looking at 14 years for each count on the abandonment. Now she's looking at 5 years on each count, 10 years, if assuming they were consecutive. And if she was convicted of that, it would be no greater than 10 years maximum sentence. 10 years for killing your kids and possibly getting away with it. David, get the damn kids to school. Joyce, is it legal for Walmart to check the receipts? Yes, it is. Okay? It's a private company, ladies and gentlemen. I get it. You go to Costco and you're like, oh man, now I got to check this person like they're really going to, like I made it this far, like I'm going to steal and check the receipts. They can do that. Probably be a lot less theft if they had a security guard waiting for you coming out than watching you coming in. It's a thing. They can do that. Think about it. It's private property. Most of the rules, regarding privacy and infringement upon your privacy, the Constitution only applies to the government. You can consent to giving away your privacy, searches, all that type of things to private people all the time. You do it all the time. Do you think you have an expectation of privacy at your work? No. Your boss is probably not going to be completely endeared to you, but he can go through your computer at night. He can monitor all your emails. He can go through your desk at night. You don't own that. That's his or her desk. It's not yours. So you have no expectation of privacy there unless your boss somehow gives it to you and he's going to say, I'm going to follow these rules and procedures. Okay, someone wants to know what's psychic. Now, the psychic stuff, I got to tell you, I don't know. I'd like to think it was true. Maybe they just get it right. I don't know. Do I think that there's possibly some people that can do that? Probably. But if I was a psychic, wouldn't I always know what's going to happen next? Wouldn't I be the richest person in the world ever? Wouldn't I tell people, don't go fishing this weekend. I got a bad feeling. Don't go there. But hey, you never know. Sometimes, they get it right. I don't know. I went to a psychic once, told me everything was great. Then I found out I had an employee robbing me blind. Guess they missed that one. So color me skeptical and jaded in that regard. Scott, wear your Crime Talk mask. Ooh, I would, but I think they're all back on my desk right now. But I did see in the comments today, somebody had ordered a Crime Talk mask, and they said that it was the most comfortable mask around. Oh, look. The lovely Miss Kristen has given me her mask, even though the inside has lipstick on it. But look at this mask. Who wouldn't want this mask? Look at this thing here. Look at that. They're making everybody wear masks. You might as well look good doing it. You might as well let the world know that you watch Crime Talk, right? And it looks good. And you can order them in 5 different colors, right? 5 different colors. You can't go wrong. You simply cannot go wrong. Because let's face it, you got the little flimsy masks that we got. Yeah, I know we give them out here, when people come in, if they don't have a mask, little flimsy mask. But this is stylish. This says something. This says I'm a Crime Talk aficionado versus I just have a mask, right? And don't get me wrong, I've worn this, but until these arrived, I wore this. But now we wear this when we go in. We went to dinner the other night, wore a Crime Talk mask. It's true. We wear them. We don't just sell them, we use them. That's just like everything that we tell you about or we promote here on the show. Going back to that previous client where I said I was talking about what I love about the law is we learn something new every day. Well, guess what? We found out all we had was a name and a phone number of this particular individual that was causing great hate and discontent. And we went to our search subscription that we have, a background search subscription. We used the telephone number that we had. We searched that particular telephone number. We had a name. We matched that up because it came up, and we found out who the person was that was trying to basically, for lack of a better term, I don't want to use the word shakedown, but trying to demand money to avoid litigation. And of course, our position was bring it on. But the point being, we used what we tell you or ask you people to subscribe to. The subscription, if you go to crimetalksearch.com, it's there. It's a nominal fee. And we've had more people respond saying, oh my gosh, I have figured out that the individual that I was dating or I was interested in dating is not exactly who they represent themselves to be. And let's face it, you come in contact with people all the time that wouldn't it be nice if you could do a little background search on them? And with that subscription, it is anonymous and you can do as many searches as you want. You could search every kid's parent's name, of a kid in your kid's class. Your children show up with a new boyfriend or girlfriend, find out what their parents do, see what they got going on over there. You can do that completely anonymously. They won't know. Your kids will thank you for it because that's what parents do. Look out for their kids, right? So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a subscription. We would ask you to do that. Let's see here. News before. Let's see. I love your show. My guy and I were just talking about how it reminds us of the news before Trump came along. I only get my news online or through the BBC. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we try to talk about facts. And yes, I opine on various things, whether, people are going to lose, whether it's a good tactical decision for trial. But I try to tell you, I'm a criminal defense attorney. Yes, I was a prosecutor for a very short time when I was in the Marine Corps as a judge advocate. But for the most part, we do criminal defense here. We do some personal injury. We tell people how it is. You have to let people know where you sit before you tell them where you stand. Otherwise, it's biased, all right? But if I tell you my biases up front, at least you know, hey, I'm giving you the perspective of a criminal defense attorney. And sometimes I've told you, wow, that guy, they're screwed. Or they should be doing this. The prosecutor's going to do this and they're going to prevail. I'm just telling you that from my experience. I don't have any spin. I'm not going to fabricate and ignore facts just because I want a particular result. I am a realist. I live in Realville where we have to deal with facts on a daily basis. If the world was nothing but, gumdrops and unicorns, it would be fabulous, but that's simply not the case. And so you have to deal with what is actually dealt with and the facts. And sometimes you have bad facts in a criminal case. You have to embrace them. All right. But just like when you get up in a courtroom, everybody knows which side you're on and you're going to bring out the facts that are good for you. And, the prosecutor's going to do what's best for them, bring out the good facts for them. They're not going to highlight the bad ones. But through the people, the adversarial process, prosecutor bringing out their facts, the defense bringing out their facts, the jury gets to hear the truth. We're not just withholding, evidence from one side because we only want one particular result. And like I said, that's what's very frustrating if you watch anything in the news. So not only do you have a bunch of people talking about stuff they don't know anything about, then they throw in a little bias on the side, and it's just not fair and accurate. We all have biases, and to say you don't is just it's intellectually dishonest. But the most you can do is let people know where you're coming from, and don't try to say this is a news report that's really nothing more than a commentary, an opinion piece. That's what just drives me nuts. Let's see here. Letitia Stout in the mental hospital. Yeah, I just saw an order, I think the other day there was a status conference. Letitia Stout, I believe, still hadn't actually been moved down to Pueblo for the competency evaluation, and that's not uncommon. I had a case that I'm dealing with right now where the judge said move this person there forthwith, and the Department of Health and Human Services here was like, yeah, we'll get around to it later, Judge. Thanks for asking. So, yeah. Thank you, Sally, for the super chat. Let's see. Hi, Scott. Love your channel. Thank you very much, Ariana. I know private businesses can require masks, but what if the customer comes in with a doctor's note? Didn't know with ADA regulations. I'm assuming American with Disability Act regulations. Well, I think most of these mask orders that are being put forth by the government usually say, hey, you should wear a mask if you go into a public place, stay 6 feet away. They usually are exempt for people under the age of 10 or unless there is a medical issue that would prevent someone from wearing a mask. I think most businesses, if you explain to them that there's a medical condition or maybe had a doctor's note, they could do that. They would probably exercise common sense and try not to force somebody to wear a mask that's going to put them in danger of medical trauma or risk. So I think that most people would be able to comply with that. And frankly, if you have a condition that you're going to not be able to breathe properly with a mask, you may want to stay home or have somebody else do it as well. Let's see. There's a man named the Amazing Randy who has $1 million prize for proof of psychic abilities. No one has claimed the $1 million yet. Imagine that. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to cause any controversy there because I know a lot of people do believe in psychics and some don't. I thought it was kind of interesting because I'm like, man, they're just nailing all this stuff. And like I said, then I found out I had an employee stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I thought, I think that's something they should have told me. So I kind of lost faith in the person. But maybe it was just the person that I talked to. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Did you talk about the state statute? Be real, Scott. Are state statutes for murder pretty much the same aside from the death penalty?
Okay. So the question, are most state statutes regarding the murder of the crime of murder the same in most jurisdictions? Yes. With the exception, obviously, if there is no death penalty in a particular state, but most of the states adopt their law usually based upon Supreme Court law as it relates to death penalty situation. But normally in most states, and they may have different names, but generally the laws are in fact the same. For example, first-degree murder after deliberation, that the defendant on or about the date and place charged without unlawfully, which means without legal permission or justification, took the life of another person after deliberation. Thought about it. Then you have second-degree murder. Unlawfully took the life of another human being knowingly. You knew what you were doing, but it wasn't like premeditated. It's almost like a heat of passion thing. Almost you shot him. You coming at the actor. It was more of just a reaction, but you knew what you were doing. Then you get down to recklessness and negligence. The elements are generally the same in most jurisdictions. The state can expand the elements because, remember, the prosecution has to prove the elements. It's not upon the defense. So they usually try to keep it as simple as possible to help the prosecutor meet their burden of proof. You start adding, other things on there. So, for example, in a murder case, you have what's referred to as an affirmative defense. An affirmative defense is, I did it, but I was justified. Yes, I took the life of another human being, but they were trying to kill me, and under the statute of self-defense, I was defending my life because I believed that I was reasonably in fear of death or serious bodily injury. That's an affirmative defense. And so when you have an affirmative defense, not only does the prosecution have to prove the elements of the original charge beyond a reasonable doubt, they have to disprove the affirmative defense beyond a reasonable doubt as well. All right? A lot of people don't necessarily know that. Hopefully that's one of the things that somebody will say, I didn't know that. I think I'll watch this Crime Talk show every day because he provides some relevant information to me every single day. So I hope that answers the question. Yes, they are murder charges. Are the names of it may change, but it's generally the same. That the defendant, on or about the date and place charge, unlawfully took the life of another human being. They fill in that person's name, knowingly, after deliberation, recklessly, negligently, things like that. The names change, but it's generally the same stuff. That's like when you go to law school, and everything, the law used to be very particular to every jurisdiction. And now, they come up with the model this and the model that. And so all these states think, we need to become the model. And so they'll adopt the model criminal code, the model uniform commercial code. And so more and more states are becoming more and more alike. Louisiana is still the French Napoleonic code, but at the end of the day, it's still generally the same stuff. And when in doubt, what do you do? And I tell this to my associates all the time. When in doubt, just go read the statute, okay? Because when you have the statute book and you buy it from, not just something online that says, here's the elements. If you get a Westlaw, a Lexis, there's some other free ones out there, but they give you annotations, and it's cases that have had issues that have gone up to higher courts, and the higher courts have ruled or clarified what something means. What does the prosecution have to prove? Did the defense do it? And it affects that particular issue. So I always tell my associates, when there's an issue about what does something say, what do they have to prove? Go read the statute. See what the case law says, okay? Just because the statute may say something, there may be something else that has been interpreted by the courts that the prosecutor may have to prove, or what may be required for the defendant to put on a particular defense in that particular case. And then you always, always, always want to read the jury instructions. And you can find the jury instructions at most state Supreme Court site, and they'll list them all. Because judges, what do judges love to do? That's right. They love to be on committees. What does everyone in the bureaucracies of the world love to do, right? They love to sit on committees, to come up with rules, to make life complicated so that people that use them every day, it's like going to the DMV. Just when you think you've figured out the rules, they change them, right? And so that's what happens. These judges, they sit on committees, they come up with rules, they make changes, and then they like to sit around and come up with jury instructions, and they like to come up with stock instructions. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Judges are human beings, and they make mistakes. They don't always get it right. And no matter how many judges you have in a room, and they all think that they're the smartest person in the room, sometimes they're not the brightest, and sometimes a little lovable, harmless little local criminal defense attorney like myself can say, you all got it wrong. And then they have to sit and scratch their head and say, no, we're right. And then I lose because they say that they're right. I lose and I appeal and I win. So just got to follow the rules. You got to read the rules. And it's never, ever easy. Like I said, most things in life, there's an easy way and there's a hard way. Most people always pick the hard way. It's just the way it is. Even though you say, hey, I've done this case 1,000 times, I can tell you it's going to turn out the correct way, or what usually is going to happen. 980 times, this is the way it's going to happen. You'll have those outlier cases. Clients, judges, district attorneys will look at you like you're an idiot. You say, okay, let's go do it. And guess what? This is the way it's going to turn out. I'm not right all the time, but when you do something for quite a while, you usually get a pretty good idea of how things are going to turn out. Let's see here. Go to a couple more questions here.
Chris Watts' house sell, and if someone commits a murder in a house, do they have to disclose it?
Okay, I don't believe that the Chris Watts house has actually sold, based upon the question. I believe the bank actually took it off the market, so it's no longer technically in foreclosure. And does somebody have to disclose whether a murder or something of that nature took place in the house? That would depend upon the local jurisdiction. I think most people would probably disclose if something took place there. You just never know. All right, Lizzie, please list the criminal court hearings in order. Example, arraignment, pretrial, trial. Honestly, don't know the order, what they mean. Wow. Now, I know I have done a video on this. You probably have to go back maybe a year and a half ago, and I wish I had my nice little diagram that I could hold up. But let me explain it to you in the simplest way possible, because a lot of people just don't know. And we will talk as though it is a felony case, all right? And we're not going to talk federal system, because that's a complete different animal and moves much faster normally. And each state may have their own little nuance, so this is very general. But let's say a defendant gets arrested, all right? We'll just say July 1st. If they get arrested on July 1st, and if it's a big jurisdiction, they run a courtroom 365 days a year advising people. Smaller jurisdictions, they don't work on weekends. Larger jurisdiction, let's say they did. So July 1st, the person gets arrested. The police will usually have told them what they were being arrested for, and the police may have actually tried to talk with them, and they may have done that. So in a felony case, the person gets arrested. They'll go to a court, usually within 48 hours, and they'll be advised of what they're being held for, what the nature of the charges may be. So for example, let's just say, we'll keep it simple. Let's say murder. July 1st, defendant gets arrested for murder. Goes in front of a judge. Judge says, you are being held for investigation of murder. Murder is one of the few cases where they can set a no bond hold. But in most cases, you have to have a proof evident presumption grade hearing before you can do no bond. Why? Because the Constitution says everyone is entitled to bail. So what the judge will say is, I'm going to set your bail at $2 million cash only. Let's face it, most people can't do that. So the judge will say, fine, take away the fined defendant. We'll bring him back for filing of charges, usually within 72 hours. Why 72 hours? There's nothing there. It simply has to be within a reasonable time. Why? Constitution says we can't have people lingering in a jail without due process of law. Due process means you have to be advised of the charges. You have to get those charges in a reasonable time. So then the defendant will come back for a second advisement and saying, these are the charges that the state is bringing against you. And maybe the defendant will try to argue for bond again at that time. Judge says, denied. Then the matter will be bound over, usually within about 30 days, 35 days, for a preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing is a hearing that establishes probable cause. Would a reasonable person believe that a crime was committed and that the defendant may have had something to do with it? It's a much different standard than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard at trial. We'll talk about that in a second. At the preliminary hearing, witnesses are limited, all right? And most jurisdictions, a defendant, if they are out of custody, doesn't get a right to a preliminary hearing if they bond out, unless it's normally a crime of violence, something with some sort of mandatory sentencing or some sort of sexual offense. That's, for example, the way it is here. It has to be a class 1, 2, or 3 felony here in the state of Colorado, crime of violence or a sexual offense. Or if the defendant remains in custody, not on misdemeanors, but felony. So if they're charged with the lowest class felony, they can still have a preliminary hearing. Who is the prosecutor going to call at the preliminary hearing? The arresting officer, the lead detective, and the detective will answer questions. Why were you called to the scene at this location? Was it then and is it now in this jurisdiction? Yes. Do you see the person that was involved? Yes. Can you point him out? They point to the person. Basically, the detective, the lead officer, does nothing more than regurgitate what's in the affidavit for the arrest warrant. Why is that? Because the affidavit for the arrest warrant is what the judge has read and signed to hold somebody in custody, to say charges, there's enough evidence for charges to go forward. There's enough evidence to hold them, in our example, for murder. So once the judge finds that there is probable cause, very low standard of proof, and the evidence at this stage has to be viewed in the light most favorable to the prosecution, drawing all inferences in favor of the prosecution. So what does that really mean? Benefit of doubt goes completely to the prosecution, and that's just the way it is. Then the matter is bound over to the district court, all right, for an arraignment. That's where somebody says guilty or not guilty, all right? And if, just for example, if we were doing a misdemeanor matter, usually you show up and arraignment, first advisement, that's all those preliminary steps you take that out unless you remain in custody, but you don't get a preliminary hearing for a misdemeanor. So an arraignment, that's where you can have the court read you all the charges aloud, or you can waive the reading or advisement of the charges against the defendant, enter pleas of not guilty, set the matter for a jury trial. Most states have usually 6 months is kind of the general rule for the state to get the defendant to a jury trial. If the prosecution has to ask for a continuance, the 6 months continues to tick. That is what they refer to as the speedy trial clock. If the defendant, however, asks for a continuance, the defendant waives speedy trial, and the speedy trial would begin anew from that particular date. So let's say, from our example, a person's arrested in July, they get to their arraignment in September. Say there's a motion hearing in November, and the defense says, hey, we need more time. We need to continue this. Judge says, fine. Speedy trial begins anew from November. So a new 6-month period begins from that date. Why does it affect the defense that way? Well, otherwise everyone would delay everything and nothing would get done. And then the case would be dismissed on speedy trial, which rarely ever happens. From the arraignment date, the judge will usually set a motions hearing date, and motion hearing dates, the judge decides legal issues, not usually questions of fact. That's what the jury decides. Usually before the jury trial date, the judge will set a pretrial conference or a trial readiness conference to see if we're actually going to go.
There's some breaking news.
And then you ultimately have a trial. So,
Sorry.
all right.
Speed it up.
Please, can anyone ask?
Jen B, she says that there's some breaking news that Damien, hold on.
They found
Let's see. Please tell everyone they can win one of your masks on your Facebook page. I'm running a contest.
Killer of Damien in Florida, 3 guys killed.
Okay. We'll get to that in just a second. Victoria has a question for via Super Chat here. Please tell everyone that they can win one of your masks on your Facebook page. Running a contest through the 27th is to see who can bring in the most subs. So thank you. Yes, we will give away a mask, and whoever can bring in the most subs. We appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. Apparently there's some breaking news, but I don't see it in my news feed. And, Sue, watching us from South Africa at 3 a.m. Thank you for your program. Thank you for watching. Scott, let's see here. Okay, it looks like some breaking news regarding the 3 guys Florida killer. Now, you got to see. Okay, Lizzie, thank you. It was Lizzie that asked the question about the procedures, right? See? And you're kind of a total dork and geek when you can talk about the procedure. But I have explained that process a million times to clients over the last 25 years. So I think I can do it pretty darn quick. So thank you, Lizzie, as well. Now, I don't know if somebody, they came up with breaking information regarding who killed the 3 gentlemen out there on their fishing trip. But the reality of it is that's going to be interesting to see. I'd love to know what the motive was. And, was it in fact the guy, the husband of the guy that his wife was maybe having an extramarital affair with him, or was it's something else? All right. Mary took some really fast notes. Well, you can always go back and watch it again and fast forward and cut it out. But yes, that little bit of information was Criminal Procedure 101 from the law school, condensed in 5 minutes or less, I think it was. But that was literally a semester of law school criminal procedure right there. Everything you need to know about criminal law 101, I taught it to you, and I taught it to a point where you could understand it, and it didn't take you 20 plus years to figure that out. So, yeah, Claire, got to give it to you. You can thoroughly answer a question. Well, okay, sorry. Hope y'all weren't bored. So, all right. Well, we've been going at it for an hour. That's what we kind of limit our live. Pardon me?
Aren't you going to talk about the Missouri couple, or you already did?
Oh, the Missouri couple. We talked about them earlier today, the McCloskeys, who are going to be charged down there in the great state of Missouri, and the district attorney. I'm not sure why they're going through the particular process. I mean, you can indict anybody you want, but apparently the victims don't think that they should have their names put out there. They just want their initials. Funny. Why? They scared? Not sure why. Like the McCloskeys were scared, possibly, thought they could defend themselves. Yes, it'd be better if they hadn't done it, but McCloskeys, have a right to defend themselves. I mean, let's face it, they tried calling the police, and the police were basically like, yeah, too busy, on your own, good luck, which, general rule, I try to live by. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you are on your own. The cavalry is not coming. You have to be able to take care of yourself, whether just generally in life, protecting your home, your family. You have to be able to take care of yourself. You cannot expect someone else to do it for you. And the McCloskeys were doing that. Let's see here. Anyway, so that's it. Like I said, thank you all for watching. I do appreciate that. I'm trying to read this thing here. It says, Scott, what is the possibility of your country to charge Lori and Chad with murder due to both of them as guilty, even if they law stated not guilty and to proven guilty today? I don't think they're going to do that just because they think they're guilty. They have to have evidence, and they're not going to do that because it may not withstand even challenges at the most basic level, which is at the preliminary hearing or even the affidavit for arrest warrant. You can't charge somebody just to charge them and hope that you're going to make a case down the road. It doesn't work that way. That's the way they do things in kind of third world countries. We're not sure what you did, but we're going to arrest you and hold you in the dungeon until we figure it out. We don't do that here. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I'm sure there'd be people that would throw me in custody somewhere. So that's the way it is. All right. So next, we are ending our Crime Talk Live, but we're going to go to our Patreon page for our Patreon Crime Talk members. We'll probably have that link up in about 15 minutes or so. And then we'll tell you the number that if you want to call in and talk with us, we will do that with you all tonight. So thanks for watching Crime Talk. Sign up for Patreon if you haven't done so, and we'll be able to send you out a link. And we'll see you on our Patreon page in about 15 minutes. Have a great night. Thanks for watching Crime Talk Live. Come back fast, but bro, I said what?